Well, greetings and welcome along to the New Zealand Tech Podcast. Great to be back again. We've had a little bit of a break over the past couple of weeks, but we're back into it. Stephen Phillips, how are you? Great to see you.
Good to be here. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, always good having your insights. You bring a lot of background from the New Zealand tech sector and the world of cybersecurity, and we're definitely going to be delving into some of the cybersecurity topics today. Big thank you to show partners Vocus, Vodafone, Spark, HP, and Gorilla Technology. So thanks everyone for joining us. Let's get into it. Big news come through around the US Treasury having been able to link up billions of dollars in funds that have been paid out in relation to ransomware. I think the calculation, if I put it in New Zealand dollars, $7.3 billion that US Treasury has managed to track in terms of Bitcoin transactions, basically, ransomware payoffs for organizations to get their data back and to stop cyber criminals from spreading their data in some cases. This is, we have had big numbers thrown around over the years, but this one is one of the biggest I can recall having heard, Stephen.
Yeah, there's the jurisdictions around the world are only just starting to get to the point where they've got mandatory reporting. So a lot of these have actually flown under the covers, under the radar for a long time. But now they're able to tie the payment chain, follow the money. The real figures are going out, and you can see why the executive order from the US government is now starting to sort of see a bit of a response from that. You've got the Five Eyes partners, the UK, the Dutch, the Australians now starting to work together. And whilst there's no formal attribution, you're now starting to see some of the larger groups like R-Evil and the likes being taken down, and everybody's surprised.
Yeah, look, it's pretty encouraging, I think, to see that when countries team up like this and decide that they're going to collaborate and they really get serious, that they can put a dent in these things. Of course, we have seen some of these cyber criminal gangs disappear in the past on numerous occasions. They never seem to be gone too long, because I'm guessing the temptation of the money, especially when we talk about figures like $7.3 billion, is probably a bit much for folks, and they keep coming back. And of course, we've got that aspect with ransomware where it's not just these individual gangs who are creating the ransomware, but this is a sort of a sales affiliate type or partnership type model that they've worked on. So a lot of I guess there's a lot of individuals that are probably continue to be hungry to get organizations infected, right?
Yeah, well, there's a very sophisticated value chain and supply chain here, and there's now even the economic factors of supply and demand. A lot of the initial access brokers and will now be working with a number of upstream players and sort of taking the best offer. So you're seeing some disturbing sort of developments and all here, and you get a takedown basically of one group's sort of infrastructure. They'll go on holiday for a few months while their infrastructure's down, come back and build out a whole lot of new infrastructure with their next cloud provider victim, and they're back into it again. There's it's going to take quite a bit of coordinated and ongoing effort to try and get this back under control.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating to see whenever we see new things happening in the space and new information released, that just helps reveal the scale. But that $7.3 billion figure, of course, that's not going to reveal all of the cyber crimes. So that's just one particular viewpoint in. But I think one good thing about seeing these big figures is it makes the scale of it maybe real to folks that have thought that this stuff's pretty obscure and not too common.
Yeah, well, it's nearly $1 for every man, woman, and child on the planet. So it's big numbers.
Yeah. Now I saw a report about this company, Ghost Robotics, and looking at some of their stuff. And if you look through their website, it's I don't know. To me, it comes across as worrying, but expected. Realistically, that we've got all these technologies. Guns aren't the newest technology, but you put some old tech together with some new tech, and suddenly we've got something that's rather worrying. We have seen sort of footage before of some of these. I think there was a Russian robot sort of machine gun, and varying other things we've seen over the years. But a quick flick through the different images on the front page of Ghost Robotics website, and they're very clearly targeting the military. And whereas when we look at Boston Dynamics, I think some people are freaked out and scared by Spot, but mostly they're trying to create a lot of entertaining videos, and that's kind of what we've seen lately. I think it was Mick Jagger and Start Me Up the other day was the video, and Boston Dynamics robot sort of alongside Mick Jagger for a bit of a dance. A little bit less of an ethical sort of discussion there when it comes to most of the things that we're hearing these days from the likes of Boston Dynamics. I guess there is a reality that with a lot of technology, it gets used for both good and bad, or areas that would certainly spark some ethical debate. Probably don't have too much time to delve into that today. But I guess one of the other topics that caught my attention was Microsoft shutting down LinkedIn in China, and we just seem to see sort of really a lot of ongoing activity as far as China is concerned, and challenges with things going on in recent times. And was it Amnesty International that we heard of, who have had a base in Hong Kong for a long time, have just announced that they're exiting there due to complexities. Now LinkedIn, which from what I can think of, probably it was a localized version of LinkedIn that Microsoft had in China, and no doubt wouldn't have had the same levels of sort of freedom for posting. But of course, Twitter and Facebook, Instagram haven't been operating in China for a very long time. So it's probably not a big surprise, is it, Stephen?
Yeah, well, you've got the likes of Google probably exited that market now nearly 10 years. So Microsoft, with LinkedIn being more of a professional network, has had probably a pretty good run. But I've certainly noticed there's a lot more personal social commentary sort of coming into the LinkedIn platform. So I think it's probably about time maybe they did leave.
Yeah, well, I think yeah, there weren't any other social media, American social media platforms that were left in China, and understand that they had to agree to some pretty strict rules, which is just the nature of government led censorship in China. But yeah, it's must be getting pretty hard to sort of operate in that sort of environment, and things like VPNs and becoming illegal and the like in recent years. So it's certainly getting somewhat harder. And I know we chatted recently around things like the even the audio book and ebook sort of platforms getting shut down in China in recent times. So the Chinese Communist Party does seem to be taking more control, shall we say, as far as content in China. So yeah, but a bit sad to see it continuing on into other realms, and of course we see Chinese platforms obviously operating in the West, but yeah, now basically nothing in the other direction.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how it plays out.
Mm. Now, new gadgets. We chatted a few weeks back around Microsoft's new Surface announcements, and there was certainly some what should we say, some honest feedback on some of the reliability frustrations with some of Microsoft's past Surface products. Now, I received yesterday from them the new Surface Pro 8, and been having a little bit of a look at that just over the last 24 hours, and certainly looks like very, very nice hardware. So the bit that I'm really curious to find out is just how well will that run. And what will the sort of general reliability be of Microsoft Surface products going forward, whether they can move themselves from the bottom of the stack, which is where they appear to be, the least reliable of all the major hardware brands in one report that I saw. So yeah, they've certainly got an opportunity there, and the other thing they've got is that opportunity to grow their market share again, because they have lost quite a bit of market share on the devices front, but it is a multi-billion-dollar business for them. So I can imagine they want to take that quite seriously. What are your thoughts, Stephen? Microsoft and their Surface business?
I like the laptop 3, laptop 4. No issues with them at all. They've been really, really great hardware. Loved it. A lot of people I work with like them. But certainly they do want to lift the game on the Surface, particularly with the reliability around the graphics side of things. So hopefully on this new model, it's all sorted.
Yeah, and then we've got Apple, who have really made I think a pretty big splash with their new M1 based MacBooks, M1 Pro and M1 Max processors. And when you look at them, interestingly, they take, I would sort of say it's almost something out of Microsoft's book, what they've done with these devices, with the number of ports that are available. That you can actually plug some things into your MacBook Pro again, and it was Apple that really led the charge of simplifying and removing your connectivity options from laptops, and but here they are, and they're increasing the options again. You've got an HDMI port again, and you've got your SD card. And MagSafe is back as well. So yeah, some interesting things going on, and really, really powerful. Certainly from the CPU perspective, the graphics processing, that will be interesting to see how how competitive that Apple are able to be with these new MacBooks, sort of versus the I guess the traditional graphics cards that we're used to seeing in some of the higher end MacBooks. But in terms of general processing power, the Apple Silicon seems to be very, very strong. I haven't had hands on these yet, so can't speak from first hand experience other than on MacBook Air with the M1 processor. I've found that to be pretty solid now, and the apps are generally broadly available that work with the M1 rather than having to go through the compatibility mode.
Yeah, I've recently moved from Windows back to Mac, and every time sort of a van goes past outside, I look to see basically, is it a courier delivering my new Mac? So I went out and I opened the box, and I was hoping it was going to be a new M1, but I've got the one without the HDMI port, and it's just the MacBook Pro 2020 sort of edition. So I don't have an M1, but I've been looking at all of the some of the transcoding performance for doing video transcoding is amazing. It's just out of the world. Sort of, you'd have to spend, I don't know, $7,000 or $8,000 basically on an Intel sort of a version, and a mobile sort of 3070 or 3080 to get similar sort of performance. Certainly not a gaming device, but for for business video and that type of thing, it's going to be a phenomenal device. It's going to be interesting to see how Intel's new guy and all whether they can actually sort of get back on the game to compete.
Yeah, look, it's been an interesting time for Intel, and very really, I mean, really challenging for them. It's taken them a long time to shrink their manufacturing tech down, and I think we're now seeing with their 12th gen chips that are just just coming through. They've announced the desktop chips. They're built to the sort of with the 7 nanometer technology. But of course, Apple's already at 5 nanometers with production out of Taiwan with TSMC. Intel are already behind with their newest tech in some ways. So yeah, very different world from where Intel was a decade ago. That's for sure. So I think competition is usually very, very good. And I'm absolutely fascinated to see how things are going to go for Apple, and whether they're going to be able to take a bigger slice of market share when it comes to computers over the next 2 or 3 years, because they do seem to have a very, very competitive chip in the various sort of M1 options that we're seeing now, and yeah, I think it's pretty exciting time.
Yeah, software's been eating the world for about the last decade, and hardware's been second fiddle. But I think we're entering into a couple of year period where we're sort of moving into the next phase. I think hardware's going to be pretty interesting for the next little bit.
Definitely. And then there was Squid Game. You probably saw what I saw on this new cryptocurrency that sort of popped up to take advantage of the popularity of Squid Game. And look, we so often see this with scams, don't we? That they're tied into what's current, what's newsy, what's popular. And yeah, there's some sort of attraction there for folks to jump in on it. But yeah, we understand this new crypto, the Squid cryptocurrency popped up, went through the roof, and then basically just disappeared, dropped down to zero. They say. So I haven't delved in detail, but there was a video doing the rounds from was it Mr. Whale on Twitter, and a bit of an investment in this cryptocurrency that kind of disappeared to nothing. So a bit sad, but we're kind of always going to see this, aren't we? As people get greedy and don't necessarily quite know what they're getting into, but give it a go. And in this case, it sounds like they generate at least a couple of million, maybe 2.5 million US over a day or two.
Yeah, I can't see why sort of people invest in these types of things. There's got to be some substance behind something before you want to put your money into it. But yeah, people just keep getting caught out.
Yeah. All I can say is I hope these were just, small things with people putting a dabble, and a bunch of people that maybe put in what they could easily afford to lose, and that, no individual lost too much. So, yeah.
Let's hope.
Not very nice. I guess that what we should say with that is be very careful if you are getting into crypto, into NFCs, and we do talk about these topics on the show from time to time. But really, you want to have some good understanding of what you're getting into, what you're putting at risk, and don't go throwing a whole lot of money into something that you don't understand, or you aren't confident that you're able to secure it properly. We've keep hearing more and more stories of scenarios with crypto where people are losing money, and some of these are folks that I guess are attracted to the potential profits, but we talk about with crypto that you can become your own bank. Well, being a bank actually has a fair number of complexities associated with it, and there's a security aspect to that. And so if you're sitting on a chunk of crypto, then you want to have a pretty good way to secure that. When we hear of people getting ransomed and the like, you can imagine these sorts of things are probably going to become more and more common if people sit on large chunks of crypto, or even smaller amounts. So I would be very cautious on that front.
Yeah, well, any of these exchanges are only as secure as how well they've guarded the keys, and the way that the likes of the US Treasury can see that there's $7.3 billion worth of transactions is because they've been able to actually exploit the security flaws and the carelessness basically of people in actually securing their keys. So why would you put your money into a place basically when the entity, you don't know whether you can trust that they've actually got good processes in place. So yeah, that's certainly a big red flag for me at the moment. They're typically unregulated entities.
Yeah, look, and with a bank or credit card company, if there's a wrong transaction, you have some sort of recourse. But with crypto, it's if it's gone, it's gone. So someone walks in and points a gun to your head and asks for it's your life, or give away your keys to your crypto, then there's that's not a nice scenario. So investor beware would be the non-professional suggestion on that one. But seek professional help on the investment front. That's for sure. Now, Microsoft have been having their Ignite conference, which they have. They tend to have around this time each year, and as usual, lots of announcements and all sorts of bits and pieces there. They've jumped in talking about the metaverse, artificial intelligence, and hyperconnectivity in a hybrid world. Bunch of videos and things there in Satya Nadella's keynote, and there's quite a bit to absorb. I'm still looking through all the bits and pieces. Mesh for Microsoft Teams looks interesting with these avatars. So they're calling it. It sort of sounds like, from Microsoft perspective, they think of this as a bit of a metaverse play. So instead of interacting with video as a person via video, as we might have been used to, you could potentially be bringing in live avatars and so on. So I'm kind of very curious to see how this stuff actually plays out over time, and I guess whether it becomes anything more than a gimmick. And that's sometimes a little bit hard to tell with these things. They can look very, very good, but the question is, are they is there stickiness, and are they things that we keep coming back to, and wanting to utilize.
Yeah, I think there's an element of trust in all there, and Microsoft has always struggled to actually, in the consumer space, to get traction in this sort of place. But they've been a trusted brand in the business thing. But trying to figure out how they'll do kind of like the metaverse approach, basically, to business, is a little bit beyond my comprehension at the moment. But if you look at the consumer space, basically, I think Microsoft's probably in a better space at the moment than the other verse that's sort of rebranding at the moment. So maybe there is something to their timing. Interesting.
I mean, talking of sort of stickiness, a lot of people have gone in and bought the Oculus Quest 2 because it's so cheap and accessible. I fall into that camp, but it's not necessarily something that's sort of very sticky that gets a whole lot of use. So all of these metaverse type things, I think there's probably a way to go before we get some some clarity on how they all fit together, and what's gonna really work. But I guess that brings us to Facebook and their rebranding to Meta. There's certainly been some pushback from various sectors, particularly I think those who feel that that Facebook should be sort of steering clear of the metaverse, or at least not trying to claim it as their own by naming themselves Meta. Other people seem to think, well, actually, this just brings attention to metaverse and what the opportunities might be, and maybe draws a lot of new people in. You had any thoughts on this whole thing, Stephen?
Yeah, I think people kind of see through it at the moment. It's certainly going to be a way that people interact sort of in the future, but people will only interact with things that they trust at the moment. Trust is at the heart of this at the moment. I can see some great applications in business using metaverse and augmented reality and those types of things for maintenance and all those types of things. But really, is it going to enhance the human experience sort of when we're using it in our personal consumer lives? I'm still to be convinced on that space, and I think people are going to make their decisions based on organisations that they can trust, not how good the technology looks or how compelling the technology looks.
Yep.
Hope they do.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. I mean, I think to a degree that consumers maybe still don't value privacy to the extent that some of us might think that that we should. Yeah, I don't know, but I do think there is a pretty large degree of mistrust in the direction of Facebook at this time. This sort of rebrand at the corporate level or the company, ownership level to Meta. I'm not sure how it necessarily helps with those with those trust issues. Facebook is an incredibly successful business from a financial metrics perspective, or Meta as we should call them now. But that doesn't mean that they live forever, right? And we've seen plenty of businesses that haven't been successful longer term. But right now they're one of the biggest companies on the planet, and I guess they're very, very convinced and about the opportunities in the metaverse. And they're talking about a metaverse sort of first approach to business, which is is pretty mind blowing. A little bit hard to get your head around, and not quite sure what to believe.
Yeah. Well, I think Meta's the overarching sort of brand, but I think we are starting to see peak Facebook, and it's certainly probably on the decline as a brand now, and they're going to have to actually develop something, and hopefully they do it with good ethics and values.
Well, on that front, one thing that they have announced is that they are shutting down their facial recognition capabilities, or their facial recognition program. Now, probably a lot of people would not actually remember that that this is a key part of Facebook, and has been for for a long time, and unless they're paying you're paying attention to the sort of auto tagging and so on that's gone on in Facebook for a long time. And they're saying they're going to delete over 1 billion people's what they refer to as facial recognition templates as part of this change. So apparently more than a third of Facebook's daily active users, talking over 600 million accounts, had opted in to the use of facial recognition capabilities. So, I mean, to me, this is something that would up my trust in Facebook for sure.
Yeah, there's something like about 160 odd sort of identifying sort of components that these organisations are tracking, and you compare that to others like Microsoft might be only tracking 10, and it's a matter of where is the right sort of balance to do that. So Facebook sort of taking this one off. The cynic in me is going, have they figured out another way to actually sort of better monetize the relations between these data points? So facial recognition is can be sort of quite intrusive, I think, in terms of sort of what you can derive from people's proximity to other people and relationships between people. So it's probably only a good thing that they're getting rid of that data point, but what are the data points that they're going to replace that with? Not sure.
Yeah, interestingly, it says that it also will impact their automatic alt text, which creates image descriptions targeted towards blind and visually towards the blind and visually impaired. And after this change, then those descriptions will not be able to include the names of people recognized in photos. So, that sort of case is manual tagging, would have to be done for that piece to work out. So that to me doesn't sound like something that's too hard to necessarily work around, at least to a degree. So I can see from a business perspective for Facebook, these sorts of things make a difference. It is helpful to their business, but on balance, the way people are feeling, it's a much smarter move for them to kill off that facial recognition. And really now, I guess it's a bit of wait and see to see what else comes next from Facebook. Is this just a one-off, or are we going to see really big wholesale change taking place within Facebook, and that they really clean up their act in areas where they've been exposed.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of governments that are certainly going to push in that direction, I think, over the next year.
Yeah, and they do point out the lack of guidance from regulators at a governmental level. So I would imagine we start seeing some of these things catch up as well as they get more and more attention. And of course we've been seeing a lot on the privacy front. Initially with the European Union leading the way with their general data privacy regulations, and I think that sort of maneuver will keep improving sort of around the world. I'm not sure we have a lot of maturity on that front in New Zealand, but at least we've got some newer regulations in place, but not too much teeth for those organisations who I don't know, misbehave, shall we say. Bit of work still to be done.
Certainly incentives for organisations that do a lot of business with the government, but outside of that, basically, you're right. The financial penalties for a privacy breach in New Zealand probably do need a little bit of additional work to actually make sure that sort of all companies of all sizes are actually following the rules.
Yeah. Oh, it's been great to chat, Stephen. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks everybody for listening into the New Zealand Tech Podcast. Hope to catch you again next week. And great thank you to our show partners. And feel free to get in touch across to us via social media, NZ Tech Podcast. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. And we're on YouTube these days as well. So if you do want to catch the live streams, definitely follow us across onto those channels. All right. Well, that's us. Thank you again, and we will catch you again next week. All right. See ya.
Bye.